Hey everyone, welcome to the Self-Woven Podcast, a way of living your uniqueness. We are your hosts, Danita and Brea. My body's really sore today. I'm not sure how I feel.
Yes, my surprise when you walked into the Pilates Reformer class yesterday, because I had no idea you were coming. I was like, Danita.
I had no idea I was going to go either. What we're talking about is Reformer Pilates. I got back on the workout train, I guess. I've done like yoga forever, but I've never really done Pilates. And Bree's there.
I'm enjoying it so much because this is new for me too. I mean, I have done it before years ago, but now to be going regularly, I mean, for me, it's addressing some things. It really addresses the physical aspects where things in our body aren't balanced, which is true for pretty much all of us. We have a dominant side, but we'll have old injury. So for example, I have a 3-year-old injury of my right ankle. And that really makes me ultra aware of like where the imbalance is, what's happening. And so I've noticed that, and I have diastasis recti. I mean, I had my children ages ago, and I still have, never fully healed properly, even though I did physiotherapy and osteopathy and a lot of things, and the emotional side of it too, of course. But still, at the end of the day, there was like some physical aspects that need to be addressed. And I am really thankful for Pilates, specifically Reformer, specifically the instructors that we have here that really understand the importance of balance and realignment in the nervous system and in the body. So I'm just like, I am loving it and it feels so good.
I actually really enjoyed the class, but it was a bit of a gut punch because she's like, you got a moon belly. And I'm like, I know, I've had it my whole life. And then after kids, it's just been like more exasperated. I loved her energy in it. It was just so chill. And she'd just call you out on everything like, hey, yo, no, that's not what you're doing. Bad dog. Like I'm trying to do some sort of dog move. She's like, bad, you're just doing bad. Like what you're doing is not good. What you're doing needs to change because obviously whatever alignment is happening in your body is you're compensating somewhere else. And today I can feel it. I moved muscles in my body that haven't moved in a long, long time.
Yeah, it gets to the small ones, like the little connector areas. And that's what I just appreciate so much. And it's so great to have you there. And you probably noticed actually, okay, so talking about the body and adjusting for that, you probably saw like there's a lot I don't do or I change or I like, because I'm like ultra aware of what's happening inside me. I'm like, wow, yeah, my back can't do that. That will not be healthy. And so when I go to any class, whether it's yoga, Pilates, whatever, the adjustments that I have to make for myself, it's a lot of them. And I think that's part of it. This is why so many people have yoga injuries, especially, right? They go and their body just does the things and then they can't walk for days. And they really actually can get serious injuries from that. I think focusing on our personal body and what's happening energetically and the micro alignments we need within are the most important thing. If it's just to do the proper downward dog because it looks like the proper downward dog, then it might not be the right thing for us, or it might need to be adjusted in a specific way for us. So, and this is hard stuff to get to know because you really need to be with an instructor that understands that. And I think that's the amazing thing when we can have smaller classes or private classes to begin with to help us understand that if we don't already.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday I think there was 5 people in the class, so it was great. It was almost like having a private class.
Low season in Costa Rica. It's amazing. I mean, often I'm in class with 2 or 3 people right now.
Yeah, except for then she's really on you and she notices you and you can't just be like, oh, I'm not going to do this move right now.
Danita, this is a good thing.
I know, but I can't just sit there and be like, I'm going to kind of do this one.
You're still like, I'm going to do the opposite of what Brea just said.
Yeah.
I'm going to power through that move and I'm going to get it done.
Normally, I would say more of an older habit that I have shifted out of. So yesterday, I was a lot more conscious and a lot more aware of the movements that I was doing because I can actually feel my body for the first time in my life. I actually didn't know what the ab muscles felt like. Yes, I could feel my abs were sore or different things. When someone says something to actually contract that specific muscle. I wasn't doing it. I was contracting all muscles around it. My glutes were contracted with my abs, were contracted with my neck, like everything at the same time. And I knew that before, but I didn't know how to be like, okay, I'm going to relax this one and really get into specific parts of the body. I believe it's because energetically I wasn't able to like feel those different parts of my body. And so now that I am, when she tells me yesterday, like bad dog, I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand what you're saying. Whereas before I would have just been like, I really don't know what you mean.
Yeah, so important. And I think that comes with noticing, allowing ourselves to feel with a gentle awareness where our emotions are stored in our body. Knowing it always changes. It's not like, oh, in this moment it's here and then it's there. It's not that. It's that when we're having something come up that feels like, call it a trigger or like that moment of intensity, that we pause and we can become aware of our body in that moment. And that just allows us to have a relationship with our body, but it goes deeper than that. Okay, maybe I'm aware of anger in my belly right now, and I can feel that. As you practice that over weeks, months, years, the refinement of that becomes incredible. And then it's almost like you can feel like the cells within you, the nervous system, it becomes very refined. And then it opens up whole new relationship to oneself that leads to how our physical posture. I mean, I don't know how many clients I've worked with where their posture changes, the way they walk changes, the way they talk changes. All of it changes. And I'm not working with them. I'm not a body specialist by any stretch. So I'm not working with them on that aspect of like, here, let's see your posture. Oh, your voice. Like, that's not me. There's amazing people that can guide that. But just from that simple awareness of knowing what's happening inside of them within their nervous system, their emotions, moving through this, releasing, letting go of what they don't need. Yeah, it just opens up in such a more clear way.
I used to seriously be like a rounded shoulder, kind of protect my heart, protect my insides a little bit. And, I would always have people be like, well, just hold your chest open. I would do it for a minute. I would doubt it was even a minute, probably 30 seconds. And then almost immediately it would be straight back to the way that it was. And it has changed. It has literally changed. It's amazing. My mom is here in Costa Rica visiting. And all of a sudden I could feel just my throat starting to just quickly, lightly feel sensation in it. And at one point I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to record because of like having people around me in the space that I'm recording in. And I started to realize like, I don't like to have people in my space when I am trying to podcast or be on a microphone or anything like that. That was like a hard sensation. I was able to realize like that was the sensation and that was where it was coming from. So, okay, I'm having this sensation in my throat. At some point in my life, I probably would have just been like, I don't know what's going on. I just can't record today. My voice isn't working. It kind of hurts. I'm having a sore throat. Like, what do I do? Whereas today I was like, okay, I can actually see what is happening and show up.
And I think this is how most of us live our lives. We come to this place where we don't feel good. We don't really know why. Maybe it's a headache. It's a stomach ache. We're just feeling overwhelmed. It's too much. Okay, I'm going to call in sick from work. I'm going to, let my kids go on the iPad. I'm going to do whatever. And sometimes there's a real need for this. I don't mean those times. There are times where things are just heavy and hard. And then there is other times, and I think we were going to talk about this today, where a little bit of discipline is needed. But it starts with having that awareness because it's very hard to be disciplined to allow ourselves to unfold in our own growth from our own sense of truth if we're always not taking that moment to become aware of what's happening inside. If we're always just shutting that stuff down, if we're like, I don't feel good, it's too much, I'm going to take the Tylenol, the Advil, I'm going to put on Netflix and I'm just going to like go in that space. So that can help us get through a moment of tough times, but that doesn't change what's happening internally. And then we keep coming across this again and again and again and again. Really, we need to pause. We need to become aware.
It's like that self-awareness of where your body is at. Do you need the day of Netflix or can you actually come and show up and be there and have that sense of discipline?
Yeah, absolutely. Because 5 or 10 minutes of laying down on your couch to just tune into your body and what's happening. So why does this work? Because a lot of the time there's a lot of emotions that we're not allowing ourselves to feel. So what if there's shame and guilt, or there's like anger, fear, apprehension? And if we allow it to be felt in our body, it just somehow clears. Like it doesn't have to hold tight because it's not hiding anymore. It's allowing those emotions to hide in our body, to not being aware of them. That's what gives us that sensation of overwhelm, of like, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. When we talk about discipline, and we can talk about it in a few different ways, it's a lot different than the discipline of like, you have to push through and do everything and not listen. It's actually the opposite, but it's still discipline, because there is a certain amount of discipline required in order to say, hey, I'm going to pause for 5 minutes and I'm going to allow myself to feel what's happening inside of me. Like that takes discipline. We don't want to do that. We're like, well, we got this to do and that to do. Or, I'd rather just like focus on scrolling through Instagram or whatever it is. So there is definitely discipline required.
It's not always the easiest to say, I don't want to record this morning because my voice is hurting, because my mom is visiting, because I don't like having people around me, because my partner's right upstairs and can hear what I'm talking about, and like just going down that whole path of where that sensation leads you. Like, and then it comes to the actually how I feel slightly embarrassed to be on a microphone. Maybe a little bit, like what I'm talking about, it feels really personal. And while I'm still recording and sending it out to the world in this intimate environment, it feels a little bit too close for someone to be standing there watching me while I'm talking about this. That feels very intense. I needed that moment to just say, okay, this is how I'm actually feeling, and take it down to the whole sensation of where it's coming from, and then say, okay, I can record. I can come back.
Yeah. And it's funny because having that sense where there can almost be like a little bit of judgment that we're perceiving, not necessarily true, not true in your case at all, but the perception of judgment, which gives us a bit of tinge of shame to be recording, even though it's going to be heard by a lot of people. But it's funny how when it's in our own household, it's like, oh,
I'm guessing, if I were to be honest, my mom would probably sit there and be like, wow, you're doing a great job. And if I'm not talking exactly correctly, or if I'm not getting my words right, like I might be judged for what I'm saying.
And this discipline, I think, leads us to, and I think it's such a funny word because it is so required, but it leads us into how we actually live our lives. Because there's sort of the opposite of it, where a part of us in, say, this healing world, this path, just listen to how you feel, do what you feel, be in the moment. And I understand what that means and where they're coming from on that. I get that. And there's a part of that that's true. But at the same time, if we listen to what we felt like, I don't know, I think I'd eat chocolate cake and pie all day long. Do you know what I mean? I would feel awful. I think I'd lay on my bed. I would just like sit there eating key lime pie and some apple pie and give me some tarts. And I don't know. I wouldn't do much though. And then I'd feel awful. And I think this is the thing. And then we get in that cyclical loop of feeling awful because we don't have the discipline to say no to the foods that don't make us feel good. Sugar doesn't make me feel good. This is the reality. I need to avoid it. Actually, a lot of foods don't actually sit that well with my system. Going to bed at a certain time. I go to bed around 8, 8:30. I'm usually asleep by 9. I'm up at 5, 5:30. I feel great when I do this, but that takes a bit of discipline. It takes a little bit of saying no to the late night events. But say if I did let myself sleep until 7 or 8, I would not feel good that day. I just wouldn't. And it's coming to know those things and knowing that somewhere between what allows us to feel well, so to function at our best, does require a certain amount of discipline. Going to Pilates, right? Doing those activities, walking. We need to move our bodies. Anyone that's not moving their bodies is not going to feel optimally healthy. This does not mean running a marathon or anything like that, but it means moving our bodies, going for walks, maybe doing some weights. There seems to be a lot of good benefits for that, for building some muscle, especially as we get older. Not crazy amount of discipline, but enough that we include this in our lives most days.
When you talk about foods, I think this one gets a little bit tricky because we go around and we see all these different diets that we're supposed to be doing. I'm going to do this one for this because this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to do a keto diet for this because this is what I'm supposed to do. Or I'm going to do an all meat diet, or it's like vegan, or it's pescatarian, or it's gluten-free, or whatever the term is. There's just so many different options for us to follow that sometimes I think we get a little bit bombarded with information and we don't really listen to what we need. For your system, sugar doesn't work. I know for my system, I want sugar, but it doesn't really work. I've done like medical medium. He was great in a lot of senses, but then I found out that I was eating too much fruit and that sugar was just too much for me. I did another one where it was like, I don't know, it was like an EquiLife protocol or something. That was great, but it wasn't really sustainable for me. Like I did need a little bit more for me to just enjoy my life. Okay, I also want to enjoy life besides just following some sort of like protocol or food or whatever. It came down to the point of like, what can I actually eat that makes me feel good, but also lets me live? When I was on a strict gluten-free diet, like I did this gluten-free for like 3 years, and I never felt optimal, but I felt better than I did before, but not necessarily optimal. And then, you start looking at the ingredients and you're like, okay, well, this actually is kind of gross in some of the foods that I'm eating, gluten-free bread or something like.
All the starches. Yeah, this is the problem with the gluten-free world is the starches are heavily processed. And I am yet to find some good alternatives that are pre-packaged in the store. I think you can make some amazing gluten-free things at home, but like to actually go buy gluten-free products, not so much.
So when I started cooking all my own gluten-free, that was great. That was fine. But it just gets to this idea that we're looking to other people to find out what we're supposed to eat because we don't know what we actually need.
Well, these chemicals that are in the processed foods are created to have us addicted to them, right? So this is what happens when we can't feel our body, when we're not in that alignment with ourselves, we're disembodied. Being disembodied means it's hard to listen to it's almost impossible. If you're not in your body, it's impossible. And I mean, I'm speaking energetically here. It's impossible to get that feedback on if something that you're eating is feeling good for your system or if it's not. And so we can't just say point blank, hey, listen to your body. It'll tell you what you need. Well, your body is going to be like, your brain especially is going to override your body and be like, oh, we really like that highly processed Doritos, cheesies, whatever the thing is in the store. Like we need those. We need the chocolate bars. We need the candy. That's what it's going to say. So it has to be at a deeper level than that, I think.
When you say that, listen to your body, I didn't know what that meant. When someone would say that, I would still look to someone else to tell me what I was supposed to be listening to from my own body because I didn't know what that even meant.
And I don't think we should. I think it's just a saying we should stop talking about because that's not available to us. If you cannot pause and feel your emotions in your body, and I know this is hard, this is like a big ask for people. If you're not willing to do that and to have a moment with that, then it's very hard to make decisions and to think that we're getting the right feedback from feeling our body because we're not aware of the emotions that are in our body and where they're stored and what's happening and how things are functioning. It's hard to explain how that deepens and how that evolves over time because it's coming from a place of very deep, great wisdom, that place of connection between all of us. So there's like infinite wisdom within that, but there's no words. I think people get this idea that like we're going to hear this little voice in our head and it's going to be like, you should do this, then you should do that. You should date that guy. You should date that woman. You should get married. You should move there. You should eat that kind of food. You shouldn't eat. Like there's no voice telling us what to do. It's a deep sense of knowing that we cultivate by the discipline of actually being with ourselves and getting to know that space that has no words, has no description, has no voice, that space within us. This is a tricky thing to describe to people of how to do that. Obviously, this is the work and this is what I do. To do that, everyone can do this.
When you say discipline, what do you mean? Because to me, like when I hear discipline, it's like structured, it's harsh, It's not anything I want to have to do with. Even though there are things that I do on a routine basis that I know is good for myself. If I were to be like, I'm going to be disciplined in going to the gym, I probably almost automatically would stop going to the gym. I'm not, because it is something that I'm supposed to do because I'm disciplined in it. That my body would probably just be like, today we're going to go to the beach because you said
the word. Especially for those of us that had a lot of discipline growing up in our parents and our schools. And it is. The discipline, I mean, in this respect is, let's say a neighbor comes and talks to us and they accuse us of something we didn't do and we feel very angry. We have a couple choices right there. We can shout back, we can scream, we can create a bigger thing, which it might be the right thing to do, or we can leave, go away, get in the car, go for a drive. We can put on the television. We can go have a glass of wine or beer. We can go eat a bag of potato chips. So there's a lot of things that we can do. But where's the discipline at? The discipline would be like, I'm actually going to allow myself to feel this in the body. Oh, it's in my throat. Okay. Can I just allow myself to be with this for a few minutes? Become aware of it. Is it moving? Is it changing shape? Is it eventually fading away? Because it actually does. So what happens when we allow ourselves to become aware of what's happening in our body for 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, is that prevents that emotion from being stored in our system, where all the other anger in this case has been stored in our system, deep down at a cellular level within our nervous system, in the subconscious, since we were probably in utero, right? Since we were babies, and it's just compiled. And it compiles because it's hidden. We don't know it's there. We go on with our lives. We distract ourselves. We avoid those sorts of emotions until one day we realize that our whole body's tense. We're holding a whole lot. We're doing the same patterns in our relationships with our loved ones or with our children or wherever in our workplaces. We're running from these same places. We're like, this doesn't feel good. This isn't right. Why is that? Because your cells, your nervous system, your subconscious are on autopilot from what it has learned and what it has been storing for decades. The discipline is the choice of actually allowing yourself to feel and become aware of what's happening within your body.
The discipline comes in exactly what you just said, but the sensation is going to be that much greater because you haven't ever felt it. The discipline is allowing yourself to feel the sensation that comes up. And then you're probably going to feel the 40 years behind you that has been there. Once you started feeling your body and you got to a point where the sensation can leave within a minute or two, I might live with that sensation for a day. I might live with it for a week. I might live with it for 2 weeks. And that sensation just kind of exists. At some point in my life, I definitely, if there was a sensation in my chest, like some sort of anxiety or anger or resentment, whatever it was, it lived there. I would have done something to try to avoid it. And the first time I really started to just allow myself to feel it, it was just living with a band across your chest for 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. You're just noticing it and wondering, okay, when are you going to go away?
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that, because this isn't easy. This isn't easy to do. It's not easy to feel if we've never felt before. Now, to be fair, that 3 or 4 weeks to begin with then might turn into a day, then might turn into an hour. And it can turn into just seconds where it's just this pause. Oh yeah, I'm slowing that. And then you're absolutely amazed at how quickly you feel it in your body and it releases. It's so quick. And then people use the term baggage, you don't have baggage anymore. You start to drop the bags, bag by bag by bag by bag. It literally just starts to fall off, to shed off of our body. But to get to that point where it's easy like that, it takes discipline and it takes a while. And it means not numbing ourselves. For us in our society right now, it's typically alcohol, it's prescription drugs, or it's scrolling on social media of something. Those are the 3 main ones. There's a lot. There's shopping. We could list. There's so many things. There's even exercising, right? We're talking about the healthy benefits of exercising, but there's the over exercising to avoid feeling, because you get the hit of dopamine. So keep going that way. So there's a lot. To actually pause, to actually have the discipline to feel the discomfort in our body, it takes a lot to do that. It's not easy. That's the discipline I'm talking about. It kind of sounds easy, but it's not. Pause, use the discipline, start coming into the emotions.
And thanks for listening to us and tuning in.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of Self-Woven. You can find us on our website, selfwoven.com, to learn more about our community, where we link people embracing their unrefined, unpolished, and unrestricted way of living. Those who are looking to explore their unique energetic, spiritual, and physical essence. This is where we go deeper and share opinions and celebrate our deeper layered experiences, and where we connect in embracing authenticity, deepening our connection to ourselves and the world around us. And also, here is our disclaimer that this information shared is our opinions and experiences and is not medical advice. There has been no client relationship established, and the use of this information is at the user's own risk and does not substitute for any mental health or medical diagnosis or treatments.